So that I was immersed in. And I got really good at it really quick, like in 12 months. I mean, I was probably one of the best opportunity writers in the country within 12 months because I buried myself in it. Okay? So that's one of the answers. Narrow in your own mind what qualified is. So qualified means what? What does it mean to you? Just yell out. Don't run up to the mics. What does qualified mean? You're an expert. Really? What? Hmm? Yeah, there you go. Qualified means you're able to perform. Right? Doesn't necessarily require you to be an expert. Might, but not necessarily. Brain surgery, yeah. Okay? Well, that's, yeah, sort of. It's the ability to perform whatever that job is. So some writing isn't even tied to making money, unfortunately. It's tied to other things, right? But my world, yeah, it's tied to making money. Okay? So it's the ability to perform and get a desired and satisfactory result. Okay? That's it. Okay? It's not, do you have degrees? It's not, do you have certifications? It's not tenure. It's not number of years. It's not any of that. It's, can we get results, right? And so sometimes that standard's pretty low, by the way. In many cases, it's pretty low. Either because they're missing something that isn't that hard to fix, or they're at a level where pretty much anything will work, right? So like you take what I just showed you with the Kairos, right? So it's instructive, okay, because it lops over into other businesses. So now don't look at me, look at everybody else in the room. So how many people have been to a chiropractor? Raise your hands. Now keep them up if you're currently going to a chiropractor. Okay, did you see all the hands go down? Okay, so what does that tell us? It tells us chiropractors either aren't doing anything or are crappy at what they do to keep patients over a long period of time. Okay? We don't have to be very good, frankly, to improve that result. Because in most cases, they're not doing anything. So any recall campaign will produce a result. Okay? Even a small case value is $1,500, $2,000. Right? So we could mail 1,000 pieces, get one, and we would get a satisfactory result. So how qualified do you have to be to do that? Not very. Okay? But you're qualified enough to take money for it because you can produce the desired result. Okay? So that leads us to this. Get adept at finding certain wins for the client. And we're going to talk a lot about this in strategy. But the task here is really to produce wins. And we only need to be qualified enough to produce a win. So, I'll give you a simple example. I'll often find a client who's barely doing any follow-up. So, what we call appointment, no sale. So, somebody comes in, they get pitched. Fire alarm business, perfect example. So my client in the fire alarm business, mostly I do recruiting stuff for them, okay, to get dealers. But they're a direct sales company, okay? So their entire experience of life is rep comes into house, shows you the crying dog film, the burn victim pictures, scares the hell out of you, and sells you $8,000 worth of fire alarms to hang in your house. Okay? Their entire industry religion is, if you don't close that sale then, you ain't closing it. Because it's like a 2-hour emotional build and then a bruising close. And they're like wrung out at the end of that. And if you don't get them then, you ain't getting them. So they do nothing. In 50 years, the industry has never done anything after that pitch. Nobody does anything. I said, what if we try sending them a letter? I said, you're out of here. I said, well, what if we try sending them a letter? Well, what are we? So, like 3 reasons you didn't buy. Here's the answers to those 3 reasons. He might have forgot to tell you about the 122 monthly payment plan. And, oh, by the way, if you respond to this letter within 10 days, we'll also give you this, thus, and the other thing. Well, that's not going to work. So an $8,000 alarm sale, if you take the rep out, right, and you do it direct, the profit's like $7,640, okay? They're metal cans, for God's sakes, with fuses on them. Okay? It's an elegantly simple product. Okay? It's a metal can with a wound-up spring inside and a fuse stuck on it, just like is on the sprinkler systems in this room. Works the same way. Certain amount of heat, the thing pops off. In this room, water comes out. With these in your house, the thing pops off, the spring unwinds, bangs against the can, makes all kind of noise. That's the whole product. Very clever. The only thing that costs any money is a little fuse. So we got like $7,000 in profit. Perfect for me, right? Because I know we can get really crappy response and still make money, right? I mean, that's like terrific. So I feel like there's a win here, right? So I get them to do it, and I forget the exact result now. I think we sent, I don't know, 4,000, 5,000 of these, and 2 people bought alarms. Well, that's like huge. They're like having an orgasm, right? So now, 5-step follow-up campaign, right? So now we do a price drop. If you can't have a full system, you should at least have 3 alarms, 1 here, 1 there, 1 the other place. We'll sell you a package of 3 for this, right? I got a whole back-end business going here, okay? They're thrilled, okay? So I found the place to win. By the way, what they'd like is effective direct mail that'll actually get appointments for the reps. Nobody's conquered that, me included. And I kind of thought it was unconquerable. But here's a place to win, right? So you get adept at finding places where you can win, and that's where you want to go ply your trade. So client control, 90% of the time they will come and ask you to do something that is not the certain win. 50% of the time they'll ask you to do something that's a certain lose. Because they want like their worst, most difficult problem solved that nobody else has been able to solve. And now they want you to solve it. Well, if that's where you agree to play, you're putting your head out there to be chopped off. Bad idea. You want to find a place you have a high likelihood of winning, and it usually won't be the one they show you right out of the gate. Not being justified. What does justify a fee? You've got to give some thought to that, okay? So most people think you justify a fee by longevity. That's the union worker mentality. The longer I'm doing this, the more I should get paid to do it. Which is why we have no industry in America. Because if you're pushing a broom, it doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 30 years or 3 years, the task of pushing a broom is only worth about $6 an hour. And if we're going to pay $48.50 for it, after the guy's been there for 12 years, we're all going to go broke. But it's in everybody's head. The longer you're doing it, the more it's worth. Therefore, the less time you've been doing it, the less justified you are in getting a fee. Well, that's nonsense. There's nothing to do with that. Okay? So in every field, including this one, I know people, I know copywriters who you know by name, who've been doing it for 40 years. And I can beat their control drunk. I mean, they're like barely competent. But they've been around for 40 years. Okay? And by the way, they feel fully justified in getting their fees because they've been around for 40 years. Okay? Somebody else, it could be your first job and you could beat them. So who's justified? It has nothing to do with time on the job, not what we do. It has nothing to do with credentials. Clients don't care. It has nothing to do with hours. You know, we're going to charge by the hour. No, no, no. See, that's how we pay people out there that shovel manure. The driver gets 10% of the purse money, and he spends 2 minutes in the bike. The guy who shovels manure, an hour and a half a day shoveling manure. Right? The driver gets a lot more money for his 2 minutes than he gets for his hour and a half, because it's worth more. By the way, not because he's any smarter. I know drivers who couldn't clean a stall right. Right? It's not that. It's because it's worth more. So you need to liberate your thought about what justifies a fee. Okay? So it's, as we said before, it's the ability to produce desirable results, which will require you to control the game. Relevant experience. Doesn't matter how much experience you have. Do you have any experience that's relevant to this particular task? Right? Your own confidence, your willingness to do research, because there's almost nothing anybody's going to ask you to do that somebody hasn't already done, and they've done it successfully. We've been selling shit for too long in this country. So somebody's already done that. Right? Those opportunity ads I showed you, so mine dates back to 1992, right? There's ads just like that that date back to 1902. Somebody already figured out how to sell get rich in real estate. I got perfectly good get rich in real estate ads from the 1920s. They're fine. Nothing wrong with them. Okay? I can go get those and help myself. I don't have to sit there with a blank chalkboard and figure it out from scratch. And most importantly, the value of the outcome of the contribution. So the fee is really justified by the return on investment to the client. That's how the fee is justified, right? A client a few years ago, I gave him a straight answer. How many days did you spend on this? I said, 2. He said, how on earth do you justify charging me $300,000 for something you did in 2 days? So I should charge you $300,000 for just answering the question, because the answer is really valuable, because obviously you don't get it. So I should double bill you, because if you're running around spending your money based on how much time it takes somebody to do something, you're probably making a lot of mistakes in your business. Guy's going, yeah. I said, but to answer your question, you got 1,800 stores. Right? What we did is increased each store by 1 transaction a week. That's 1,800 transactions. They're each worth $1,000 net. Where's your problem with $300,000? Kiss me. All right, I see your point. Yeah, of course you see the point. Okay? It's about return on investment to the client. It's not about anything else. Why would it be about anything else? Being exposed as a fraud. Kind of harsh. Do you want to volunteer? I don't want to pick a person who said it want to volunteer. I didn't think so. Oh, you do? Good for you. Okay. Good for you. Okay. First of all, it's pretty harsh. Okay. You got to be like Bernie Madoff, you know, or the Social Security system, Medicare. You got to be something, something like that. Okay. So I gave you all the thesaurus terms in case you hadn't looked it up. So if you really want to worry about something, worry about them all. But some of them are kind of quaint, by the way. But look, you're only a fraud if you can't deliver return on investment or desirable results in the situation in which you place yourself. That's it, right? So, smart selection of client, accurate, fair representation and disclosure. I'll show you when we get to it. I rewrote one of your prospecting letters to get clients. And I'll show you, I put a disclosure in it about not being the best, most experienced, smartest, etc. So disclosure, okay? You can disclose and not have it get in your way. It's actually helpful many times. And get adept at finding certain wins. I have a great fraud story, though, to tell you. So when I was first starting, I had an actual ad agency. Sorry, one-man ad agency. So when I'm first starting, I have no portfolio because I haven't done anything, right? So I stocked my portfolio with other people's good shit, right? Because I figure, who's going to know? And at least I'm smart enough to know good stuff when I see it, right? So I make sure it's from out of the area, right? And I got 8 things in my portfolio. I got a few things I did, but I got some stuff in there I didn't do. And I got this really good kind of a shock and awe package, not as sophisticated as what I do now, but a really good shock and awe package from this company I never heard of that was out of business. I checked, they hadn't been in business 5 or 6 years. It's a company called Exciting Life. And I got it in my portfolio. And so I beat my way in to see this client, saw their ad in the newspaper. And I mean, I really wanted them because of what they were. And at the time, because I needed money. And so, I don't know, I think I called 20 times in 2 days, to finally get an appointment. And I get in and meet the CEO and I are talking. And of course, now it's time to show the portfolio, right? I show everything in the portfolio. So about 4 or 5 months later, I realize, I'm doing work for him. I realize it's his brochure from his previous company. I have shown him his own piece, right? Now, he wasn't the brightest pencil in the box, but it's a safe bet he recognized it, right? So I toddle into the office one day and I say, I just realized you own that thing, right? And I showed you that thing, should we talk about this? He says, nah. Look, at least you were smart enough to recognize something that was good. And he said, I kind of appreciated the balls. And he said, I figured it's at least worth a try to see what you could do once, right? So I had this guy as a client for 5 years. He spent a lot of money with me. And I showed him his own brochure. Right to assignment. Most of the time, now if you're taking, and there's reasons to do it, but it's not what I'm going to teach. So if you're taking like job board gigs, Elance gigs, those kinds of things, you pretty much have no choice. I get it. But for the most part, in clients that you originate for yourself, that either come to you or you get them to come to you, this you got to stop doing. So you got to get out of the right to assignment frame of mind altogether. For a number of reasons I've already talked about. They're not competent to define the assignment. They shouldn't be in control of the assignment. They don't know what the hell they need to win. If they actually knew, by the way, they probably would have already figured out how to get it. Okay? So they are not competent to define the assignment. And I don't care, by the way, if we're talking Fortune 500 or we're talking the restaurant up the street. I've dealt with both. Okay? And by the way, the Fortune 500 guys are actually kind of dumber, in my opinion. By the way, 1/3 of the CEOs in the Fortune 1000 got there through the sales and marketing track. 2/3 got there through other tracks. Legal, bean counter, PhD, whatever. So 2/3 of them are like clueless. 1/3 of them get it. So I did a project for Iacocca. He came from sales. You ain't going to fool him, and he gets it, right? But most CEOs I've dealt with, they came from the other place, and so they don't get this at all. But they're like just victims walking around, and ad agencies are taking money from them and showing them stick figures, and they don't know the difference. So you can't let them control the assignment. They're not competent to determine the assignment. And you got to get in your head, they are not competent to determine the assignment. So if you let them determine the assignment, they're setting themselves and you up for failure, not success. Secondly, which we've already addressed, they probably aren't going to give you the win, the best opportunity to win right out of the gate, mostly because they don't know it. And you want, as part of your assignment, if not the whole assignment, you want the best opportunity to win. So you will see later, I'm going to take you through, I'm going to give you a whole file of my correspondence. And we're going to go through it, and I'm going to highlight some things for you, but you'll take it home. You'll see in many places how I make this go away and cut what I call cut it off at the knees before it even starts. But the most important thing you want to do is you want to switch to a diagnostic approach to the way you deal with clients. So the client who comes to you and orders pizza, which is what he's doing when he brings you the assignment, he's calling in a pizza order. I want 4 large pizzas, and I want one with pepperoni, and one with this, and one with that, and the guy takes the order and makes the pizza. Under ideal circumstances, of course, pizza is sort of mostly happening like right now. So it's hard to fix this in a pizza business. You can only fix it in a pizza business when they're talking about a future order, like for a party. Then they can say, well, wait a minute, this is for a Super Bowl party? Well, let's have a conversation about that. How many people are coming? Are they just friends and family, or are they clients? How important are they to you? Are you doing any decor? What about desserts? And they can get diagnostic, and they can change that whole order. A very good client in the pizza business who's very good at it. So what they thought was going to be a $50 order turns out to be a $500 order because of diagnostic discussion. If you do it in the pizza business, we can do it. So you need a diagnostic process. I'm going to show you something. But you need this conversation where you are looking for illnesses / opportunities so that you can take control of the entire assignment and turn one assignment into multiple assignments or into a project. If you don't have a diagnostic process, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, and you're actually not serving the client well either. The best control-taking mechanism is diagnosis. So in medical, if you go to the Cleveland Clinic for your big executive physical, you know that they charge like $10,000 for, the first thing they do is they take away your clothes. And they put you in a doofusy gown so you can't decide to leave. That's the first thing they do. Right? Then they run you through 6 million tests before somebody finally sits down with you and says, you need this, that, and the other thing. Right? It's hard to argue with this, that, and the other thing after you've been run through all the tests. If there were no tests and the guy said, you need this, that, and the other thing, you would question it. The magic's in the tests. Same thing here. If there's a diagnostic process, it's harder to disagree because they saw a diagnosis occur. So even when you know, you got to go through the gyrations of a diagnostic process. Because it's no good if you turn to them at the cocktail party after 5 minutes of conversation and say, well, shit, what you need is a 6-step direct mail campaign and a website. No good. Even if you're right, and even if you know, no good. No. You need a diagnostic process. And the best diagnostic processes are paid for. So, very early on, the advertising business, the agency business, the norm was and still is right? Company calls 5 agencies, they all put together presentations, and they all come in and they show presentations, including spec work. Here's the ad we do for your company. Here's what we would do. Here's this campaign idea. So they do all this free work, and they come in, they do it all for free. I saw it 3 times. I said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Everybody's working for free. You know, to start with, there's 8 of them, and there's only going to be one who's going to get a gig, so the odds suck, right? And it turns out, if you actually go study this, more than 50% of the companies who do this keep the agency they already had, and they just take the best ideas from everybody else, and they give them to the agency. Well, how does this make any sense? Right? This is no good. I said, I'm not doing this. So what else am I going to do, right? But I know I'm not going to do this. So now it started cheap, but from 1977 on, the way you start with me is a paid day of consulting. Then we determine what we ought to do and what we ought to do in what order in order to get the results that you want. So there's money before anything happens. There's money for the diagnosis. The docs don't do the diagnosis for free. You pay for all them blood tests. You pay for that CAT scan. You pay for that MRI, or somebody does. They don't do it all for free on the hopes they're going to sell you a heart operation. No, you pay every step of the way. So ideally, you want a diagnostic process and you want to get paid for it. The other biggie on this list is avoid severely limited clients by finances, by capability, by size of opportunity. So, we're not going to do piecework. We're going to sell projects. Okay? You'll see in my contracts. I'll show you projects. There are, yes, varied compensation formulas for different situations. So, it's always amusing to me to see somebody like publish their rates. And they're the same for everybody. So, 4-page in an envelope that you're going to put a stamp on and a reply card is $2,500. Well, what about degree of difficulty? I mean, so for one client, to get that right could take a month. For another client, it could take 10 minutes. What about degree of difficulty? What about the time you're going to invest? What about the size of the opportunity on the other side? The value of that asset to the client? So yes, varied compensation for varied situations. It makes perfect sense. You want to utilize fee plus compensation formulas. We're going to go through a number of them. But the most important thing you should know about this, a lot of people don't get it. It's a lot easier to get people to agree to give you money later than it is for them to agree to give you money now. Now, you should never not get money now, but the easy part of this is getting them to agree to give you money later. It's money they don't have yet, and they're only going to give it to you if they get some. Now, they may feel differently about it later. That's a whole management issue. But it's easy to get them to agree to it in the first place. We used to sell percentage above base to chiropractors. We had 3,000 clients. Percentage above base, I'll explain percentage above base to you. But it was really easy to sell it. Okay? Much easier than charging them money. Now, it's a management issue, but still. You should get compensated for preparation one way or another. You should get compensation for hard work product. You should try and create multiple ways to make money from the same work. When they need vendors to implement and you bring vendors to the table, you should get paid for that. You should get paid for everything. The bottom line of all of this is, if you get out of bed, everything you do from getting out of bed to getting back in bed that benefits this client, you should get paid for. Not get paid for one thing, do 6 things for free. Bad model. Hook client A up with client B. They are both going to make money together. You should get paid. You made the hookup. So for years in my Platinum Coaching Group model, the model was they paid a fee to be in the group, and any business they did with each other, they each paid a point. Well, they're in my room, I put them together. Why shouldn't I get a point? Point can be big. Okay? So you want to get out of the billable hours thing altogether. So, page 29, let's talk about compensation structures. There are fees, you already know all about that. There are royalties. Many of you understand royalties. Royalties are typically tied to a result. Gross sales, adjusted gross sales, not a good idea to tie it to net. James Garner's been dead now for, 6, 7 years. He's still trying to get his royalties on Rockford. There was no net. So net's not good, but per unit, per activity, per lead, per appointment. There's all different ways you can structure this. You will have clients in some industries who tell you legally they're not allowed to pay them. Nonsense. There is no such industry. It just has to be structured in a certain way. I knew you got royalties as a writer, because I was already getting them. I didn't know you could get them as a copywriter until I heard Halbert say it. And it's not like he taught it to me, he just said it because that was his deal. And I had whiplash. I didn't know that. Right? Revelation on high. $15,000 and 5% of the gross. My head almost came off my shoulders. Not because of the 15, because of the 5% of the gross. Man, I didn't know that. Right? How come nobody told me this? Right? So royalties, percentage above base. Percentage above base works like this. So company is already doing $100,000 a month. So that's the base. If you want to be kind, inflation is 4%, so we'll set it at $104,000 a month. Now we're going to install my stuff. Everything you do over $104,000 a month, I get X percentage. To work with chiropractors, it was 30% of above base for 3 years. So you can do it with a whole company, you can do it with a business unit, you can do it with a product category, you can do it with a media. So only with their web stuff, if that's where you're going to play, or only with their direct mail generated sales, if that's where you're going to play. User fees. Those are usually paid like per piece. You're going to mail this thing, so you're going to pay a penny for everyone you mail. This is significant if you're doing something for somebody that's going to turn around and essentially resell it, license it, roll it out to franchisees or distributors, etc. Now you want, if you're trying to ask me one, I can't. Okay, but make a note. Like if I create a campaign for, say, Floor Coverings International, and they're now going to give it to all their franchise owners. I want so much for each franchise owner who's going to use it, in addition to the fee to prepare it. So user fees, continuation fees. So much to do it, and so much after the test is over and they continue to use it. Again, easier to get them to agree to pay you later than it is to pay now. Annual renewal fee. You're going to keep using this stuff, you got to pay to renew. Continuation fees. License fees, that's when you bicycle something out to a lot of users. We'll talk about that. Buyouts for royalties. You'll see it in some of my contracts. That's like one of the answers to the griping about it, is a buyout clause. So within a certain number of days to allow a test period, or in some cases at any point, they can decide to make the royalty go away and just write a lump sum check. Equity in lieu of royalties or fees. I don't like it in lieu of fees. In some cases, I don't mind it in lieu of royalties. Equity equivalent, we'll get to that later today. Perks, sometimes it's easy for them to give you stuff that doesn't much matter to them, but might matter to you. Like I have a good friend who does a bunch of stuff for United Airlines. Well, obviously, letting him travel is like nothing to them, but it's significant to him. So reduce the royalty by 2 points and take unlimited air travel. He's a happy camper. They're a happy camper. Barter, I mean, we'll write for food kind of approach. I have a client who furnished his whole house doing work for Lazy Boy. They're happier furnishing the house than they are writing a check. He was going to have to furnish the house anyway because he married a wife half his age and bought a big house. So the timing was good, and self-promotion baked in. So often I have, and you will engineer for yourselves, opportunities where you're doing work for a client whose customer can also be your customers. So in my case, if I'm writing copy for somebody that's putting together a big conference of dentists, well, dentists can also buy my books, they can subscribe to my newsletter, so I can bake myself in to their marketing one way or another, and that's part of the compensation package, is I'm going to get a whack somehow at advertising to their customers in a way that doesn't get in the way of the primary job. Parasite host opportunity, we're going to talk about that at length later, and even jointly owned businesses. That what your work actually creates an entire business, and you and the client own it. So there's a lot of ways to get paid, and you want to be paid, you want income after the fact, one way or another. Because otherwise, you never have any sort of stability in this thing. You have a job. Right? But you have to understand you're creating assets that have long life in many cases, that they're going to use for a long period of time. So that ad I showed you, Louise's ad, the Desperate Housewife ad, I wrote in 1996, and I still get a royalty check. Now, it isn't a big royalty check. She only uses it in a few magazines. Doesn't matter. Okay? Average month, there's like 60 to 70 are royalty checks in the mailbox. Some small, some bigger, doesn't make any difference. They all add up. Okay? If you created an asset and they're using that asset 5 years from now, you should be getting paid based on the return on investment from that asset. So, big thing, big thing. Make this shift. You're not doing work, you're creating assets. You got to make the shift in your head first, then you can get the client to make the shift. So you're not doing work, you're creating assets. So like my language, for example, is with clients, is rarely narrowed to copywriting. It's about developing and installing marketing systems in their business. See, a system is an asset. Copy is work. So here's a royalty check. These are my fire alarm guys, D-Tech, and this is from a recruiting campaign I wrote 5 years ago, and so they pay by the dealer. If you can see down here, it says 3 dealers, Kennedy recruiting system. See, they have in their head. See that? They know they have a system, and they know they're paying for a system, because I planted it in their head. It doesn't say copywriting royalties. It says system. It's important. So they recruited 3 dealers. I get $200 a dealer. Here's a check for $600. Arrives in the mailbox out of the blue. Okay? Horse gets to eat this week. Here's one from Mr. Killingbeck, wherever Dean went. Okay? So new customers now marketing. That's Dean's company. It's a recruiting campaign I wrote for him for his representatives. This is for February, and it's $534.69. Thank you very much, Dean. This is a financial services company. This is April royalties. This is for a campaign I wrote 3 years ago. April royalties are $53,300. That's a nice check. Okay? You want that coming in. Okay? Big shift is I'm creating assets. I'm not doing work. Okay? Additional ways to escape poor compensation. Okay? Better clients. Okay? Best that your copywriting capability will permit. Bigger opportunities. That's the more important thing. You want clients with bigger opportunities so they can do more, pay more. There's room to expand. So, shoe store, there's only so much that guy can do. And there's only so much that guy can do for you. 5 shoe stores, better. Okay? Guy, shoe store, but he also has a home party company that sells shoes by home party. And he's got a website that sells cowboy boots. And now we're getting somewhere, because now this guy has a lot of things he can do. Okay? Better transaction values. Okay? The reason that check's $5,300 is because I can't, but you make a note when we get to Q&A. Okay? Make a note of your question. Don't lose it. The reason that check's bigger is because he sells a big ticket item. So he sells a financial broker a $25,000 doohickey. Okay? Dean doesn't sell a $25,000 doohickey. Okay? So the transaction size of the client is really important. Chiropractic practice is better than a restaurant because the transaction size is bigger. He can afford to pay you more per unit of sale and be happy. Cosmetic dentist, better than a chiro. Case size is 4 times bigger. The same function, right? What's the marketing function? We got to find a lead, get a lead, convince the lead to make an appointment, get the person to come into the office. Same stuff. We got to do the same thing. But the cosmetic dentist is going to be worth 4 times as much to us as the chiropractor because his transactions are 4 times bigger. Okay? Client has to have the right mindset. Joel Weldon story I told you. He has to have a positive mindset about money. So just like you do. So if you're having a conversation with a client, so like if the client goes to lunch and there's any question about who picks up the tab, if he's not killing himself to do it, that's like alarm bell 1. If he calculates the tip, and you know he's calculating it at precisely 17.6%, dump this guy. Okay? I don't care if you're dating him, by the way, gals, or if it's a prospective client. He's no good. The wrong mindset about money. So what he thinks about money is important. Some diagnostic questions to determine that are useful too. Evidence of investments in advertising and marketing. A buyer is a buyer is a buyer. See, you were out of the room getting food and you missed me talking about you. There you go. And discipline yourself against weak moments. We all have them. We know this person is no good. Terrible client, they're an idiot, they're cheap, they're going to be high maintenance, they're going to drive us crazy, we take them anyway. You got to fight it. The temptation is worse when you need them than when you don't, but by the way, it doesn't go away even when you don't need them. Right? The temptation is still there. Right? It's like I have a friend who just married a guy who's been divorced 6 times. Now, okay, the first one, her fault. I buy it. Okay? Second one, probably 2 people's fault. When you're up to like 4, 5, and 6, the common ingredient here is him, right? That's the commonality. So she thinks she's going to fix this guy. You ain't going to fix him. He's unfixable. I mean, well, you could fix that, but he's unfixable generally. Gelding would help, but it's not going to fix totally the problem. Okay? So discipline yourself against weak moments. Here are all the evil temptations that ruin your income. Some are obvious. Obligation. Oh, they've been with me since the beginning. So I have to keep charging them 12 cents. No. it may be time for everybody to move on. If you can be concessionary if you wish. If they're a cachet client, there's more reasons to do it than not. But still, be careful of this, where you wind up with a whole lot of clients that stay with you forever, who won't pay what you should be getting paid now. There's times for everybody to move on. By the way, vacuums fill. If you want a new wardrobe, go home, clean the closet. If you got a full closet, you ain't going to get a new wardrobe because there's no place to put anything. So if you got the closet full of clients that you've had forever, who you can't charge what you should be charging them because they've been with you since the beginning, go get rid of some of them. It's the best thing you can do for everybody. Okay? Guilt, right? Mama never made more than $12,000 a year in her life. How dare I make X in a week? Okay? It's in a lot of people's way. Apply some logic. Where is the relationship here between what Mama made, swabbing toilets in 1936, and what you make now for what you do? What? Huh? Got to disconnect that. Okay? Compassion. Well, that's all they can pay. Great. Decide whether you're running a charity or you're running a business. If you want to do pro bono work, by all means, knock yourself out. It's usually futile, but do it. But please do it for like the dog orphanage or the starving children in Plump Plump, and be sure that the money's actually getting to the starving children in Plump Plump and not paying for salary and private jets for somebody who should be paying your fees. But if you want to do pro bono work, do pro bono work. But don't middle this. Don't be not getting paid properly because that's all that poor client can pay. Go put them with somebody who needs to do that work for that money. But don't you be doing that work for that money. We're running a business. We're not running. So I had this conversation the other day. Jeez, I'm 20 minutes behind already. Still, it's important. So a couple of you were at our super conference. You were with me. You were there. A couple other people. When I wasn't on, I was meeting with people privately. So I use that time. So a guy wasn't even attending the conference, but he drove over to meet with me. And he was a client some years ago. He now needs to come back. He's been since the beginning of the year buying piecemeal teleconsulting time at $1,000 a half an hour. Now he needs stuff done. So we have the discussion of what he needs done. And phase one is a $75,000 fee. He then proceeds to tell me about his 3 kids in college and how much it costs to send the kids to college. And they had Katrina issues, and he had to rebuild this. And so he's got a story to tell about why he doesn't have $75,000. I don't really need to hear the story. It isn't going to affect me in the least. But I'm polite. I listen to the story. But him telling it to me, he might as well have said, I don't want to spend $75,000. Or he could have told me I don't have $75,000 because, unbeknownst to you, I've become a degenerate gambler. The end result is the same. He doesn't have $75,000. I'm not going to do anything for less than $75,000. We could have had a much shorter meeting. But I listened to his whole story. At the end, I say, sorry. You know, I can't do less and accomplish what you want, and I'm not going to do it for less. So, good luck. Keep me posted. You're welcome to keep buying telephone time if you want, and maybe we'll do something in the future. Next. You know. So that was on the first day. By the third day, he's back with $75,000. Now, I don't know, did he sell his kids? I don't know what he did, right? I have no idea, nor incidentally do I care. Okay? However, in that first meeting, here's what was happening, and you must never forget this. In every conversation, somebody's selling and somebody's buying. Okay? So you go have a conversation with your kid about cleaning his room. Somebody's selling and somebody's buying. Okay? If he convinces you that he shouldn't have to clean his room, can't clean his room, shouldn't clean his room until Tuesday, can't clean his room right now because his buddies are waiting outside to go play, say, he sold, you bought. Okay? A sale was made. Everybody's selling. In almost every conversation, both parties are selling. Somebody's better at it than the other one. That's all that's going on. So he's trying to sell me on why I should do his stuff for less than $75,000. I'm trying to sell him on why he should spend $75,000. Okay? Now, there's three outcomes out of that conversation that are possible. One, I make a sale. Two, he makes a sale. Three, neither one of us makes a sale. The only outcome that's bad is he makes a sale. That's a very bad outcome. Now, he's got other reasons too. He's a longtime client. He's been with me forever. You know, I remember when, yada, 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 and my kids are in college and my shed was flushed away, and etc. Doesn't matter how many reasons he's got. 4, 10, 50, who cares? It's $75,000. More often than not, what happened, happens. They miraculously find the money and they come back. If they don't, that's okay. There's another boat coming. But the worst outcome is me doing that for $45,000. All kind of reasons it's bad. Precedent, habit. Do it once, you'll do it again. Don't think you won't. Future with him. Work in the way now of better work that was coming. In my case, work in the way of working on something of mine. I can go write for me. I don't need to write for you. If you don't want to pay me, I can write for me. I got plenty of stuff to sell. I got lists of stuff I haven't created yet that I could go write for. So bad all the way around. So miraculously, without even leaving the conference, in 48 hours, he managed to find $75,000. Wow. I said to him, you know what? I'll bet you there's another $75,000 you could find in your business if you went and hunted for it, since you found this $75,000 so quick and easy. Well, he laughed. I mean, he got it. Okay. All right. So most of the time, that's all they can pay is not all they can pay. That's my point. Okay. That's all they will pay. Maybe. But that better be their determination, not yours. We predetermine what they'll pay. You do that. Oh, that size of business, that's all they'll pay. There's a variation of this in every business. That's all they'll pay idea. Almost every price is elastic. Almost every person will pay more than what you think they'll pay. And they'll go spend that money on something else if you don't get it, by the way. So it's not like you don't take it and they put it away for their retirement. That's not what happens. They spend it anyway. Go to the trailer park, drive around, watch. The thing's tilted like this, the door's hanging off, and if you look through the door, there's an 86-inch plasma TV propped up on two metal TV tables. Okay? They're buying what they want. Okay? They'll spend. Don't think they won't. It's in your head. Resume building. Oh, I'm going to take these clients because I need to build my resume. There's some validity to that. Just don't overdo it. So like one in a category is sufficient. You don't need to overbuild the resume. This exposure thing. I got that when I first started doing the big events. Well, you're going to build this whole list of all these famous speakers you'll be seen with. Yeah, but once with Colin Powell. I don't need 10 with Colin Powell. I can say Colin Powell after the first one. So we better figure out a way that this makes some money, because otherwise I'm doing it once. Great. It's on the resume. On to the next thing. The cachet client. Validity. Just don't overdo it. So for me, for many years, Guthy-Renker was a cachet client. Having Guthy-Renker as a client in the infomercial world brought me a lot of other clients. And they were gracious about it, never gave me any grief about competitors. Testimonials, clients could call and they would talk to them. So there was non-monetary compensation there of significance. And therefore, they paid less than just about anybody else for a long period of time. At some point, though, we had to have it's been fun, but I don't really need the cachet anymore. I need the cash. Sorry, but you got to at least come up to here. You should be here, but you got to at least come up to here. And if you can't come up to here, it's okay. Lots of other people. Okay. But for a long time, they paid less than anybody else. They're now paying full boat, by the way, but same as anybody else would. The same work. But there's validity to it. Denial of what the business is gets in your way. I just want to write. It's not what the business is. That's what the job is. So if you want to write, and that's all you're willing to do, get a job. But this business is not writing. The writing is what we get to do by doing the business of start and stop marketing. So all that gets in your way. Here is a biggie. Biggie, biggie, biggie. Your success has much more to do with the selection of the client than with you. So the client's critically important. Three biggest things are their appreciation of value. So their mindset about money and whether or not they buy in with you to the concept of we're creating assets here. Here's what we're doing here. Their appreciation of value. So like the main car I drive now, not my collector cars, but my regular car, is a Ford Explorer 2006. I don't put a lot of miles on. Gift. Client calls up, gives me a gift. Called it the Lifetime Achievement Award. Made so much money, I'm not paying you enough. What kind of car would you like? How about a new Expedition? I said, I don't want an Expedition. It's too big. It won't fit in the garage. Just give me an Explorer. I had an Explorer. I'm happy with an Explorer. Okay, it's the fourth car I've been given from clients in 25 years. Okay. If they're not giving you stuff, if they are not saying thank you, if you either have the wrong clients or you're mismanaging this. Second, size, scope, and number of opportunities. Now, those are three things. So you want to think about all three of them. Is the client of sufficient size? Is their opportunity of sufficient size? Is their ambition of sufficient size? Scope means sort of the width of the opportunities. Are they one media? Are they 10 media? Are they only using local media? Or are they using national media? Are they global media? Right? So like we have a member, he was at the Super Company. Great member, great marketer. He owns a dairy. They still deliver milk on trucks, so they own the whole deal. Cows, so the cow, the farm, the milk, trucks in his local area. Great business, great marketer, but no good to me as a client. Okay? The size of the business is too small. The size of the market is too small. The scope of the business is too small, unless and until he decides, thanks to me, that we're going to sell ice cream all across the country and ship it in freezer chests. Now he's interesting to me, because look what just happened. The size of the business got bigger, the size of the market got huge, and the scope just got bigger. Websites, catalogs, club program, ice cream thing of the month, events, so everybody's getting the ice cream once a year, gets to come to the farm, milk a cow, get their picture taken. There's all sorts of shit. So now, he was no good as a client before. He's great now. Perfect. Okay? Ability to execute. They got to be able to do it. Okay? They have to actually be able to do what you give them to do. Okay? So ability to execute, you're looking at four things. Resources. Do they have the money? Worst thing in the world is somebody who scrapes up the money to pay you, but then can't buy stamps. No good, right? So like in direct mail, specific to that, if we start talking about a 50,000 piece test, and they start talking about, can we do the test with 5,000 pieces, this is not good news, even if they have the ability to pay you. They have to have the resources to execute. And you have to be willing to have a candid conversation about what all that means, right? You don't want them to be able to run one test, and then it either worked or it didn't. Infomercial business 5 times before we make one work. So you got to be able to buy immediate buy 5 times. If I lie to you or let you convince me and you do the show, but you can only test it in Tupelo at 2 o'clock in the morning once, what are my chances of winning? Not good, right? No good. So money, okay, staff, do they have the people they need? Is it enough of a priority for them? So their resources. What are the holes in the bucket in their business that will sabotage the whole thing? So for example, that's like the handling of the inbound phone. So if you're writing copy for marketing that drives people to call and the handling of the phone call is horrid, you're getting blamed for the results. You can't have a win. So they got a big hole in their bucket. Are they willing to fix it? And then ideally, you bring them somebody to fix it and you get paid. That's ideal. We'll get to that. Knowledge, understanding, competence. I mean, are they fundamentally competent at what they do? Losing proposition to do great advertising for a terrible business. Right? You won't sustain the relationship because the business can't sustain itself. Right? Evidence of implementation. Meaning, I want to see if they've been able to implement something. So I know they can implement this something. What have they done? Are they doing anything smart? Right? Coachable. What's their attitude now towards the whole conversation? Right? If they start the 467 reasons why this won't work, and we've done this before, if that's the conversation, run. They're not coachable. They got to be coachable. On page 35 is Halbert's list of how copywriters don't get paid. We'll do size, scope, and number of opportunities, and then we'll take a quick break. By the way, a weak bladder costs you a lot of money. I can go all day. So every time we take a bathroom break, costs you like, 10 minutes of stuff. And I don't need bathroom breaks, only you do. So, and I'm drinking iced tea. Watch this. So size, scope, and number of opportunities, okay? Transaction size matters. We talked about that. Profit margins matter a lot, okay? How much profit is there in what they're doing? Okay? Because their ability to pay you depends on profit more than on anything else. So the ice cream thing's a challenge, for example, because he's basically got a Keystone mark, right? He makes it for $5, he sells it for 10. It's okay when he's delivering it on a truck, but it's no good if we're going to direct market it like Omaha Steaks. I don't have enough margin. So unless I can figure out how to fix that for him, he's no good to me as a client because we can't have a win there. mean, I happen to know how to fix them, so. Customer values, meaning, is there long-term customer value or not? So like a company that sells, well, the fire alarm guys, say that's a one and done. Nobody comes back 6 months later and buys another set of fire alarms. They're like good for life, and you can take them from house to house. Okay? So the customer value is not very good. The sale and the transaction are okay. The long-term customer value is no good. Okay? So that's a problem. All one and dones are that way, cosmetic dentistry. There's dental work afterwards, but basically, if they do a $70,000 case, they're pretty much done. Not happening. Plastic surgery, well, look at Joan, for example. I mean, you know, they can come back. Or what's that nutball now? Heidi Montag. Somebody's getting rich off her. You know what I'm talking about? Heidi Montag? You guys, yeah. Spencer and Heidi, right? Yeah. She's just announced yesterday she's going overseas now because no doc here will give her double H's. So she's had them done like 4 times. Now she's going to get double H's. My father's old joke about that was her act's going to be walking out on stage and trying to stand up. So customer value, do they have value after the fact? Can value be increased after the fact? Because that can help us perhaps with transaction size profit. So these are things we got to know, because here's a big one to write down. I'll say it more than once. Good marketing can't overcome bad math. So you write the greatest copy in the world, but if that client has fundamentally bad math in their business, you lose. You need good math. The best math is, here's a definition of best math. Really bad response is good. That's the definition of great math. So we can get 1 1/bazillionth of a percentage of response and everybody's happy. That's great math. It exists in a lot of businesses. You just have to look for it. It's great math. See, I hate the situations where they're worrying about the difference between 2% and 2.6% response, and 18% conversions at the site versus 14.7% conversions at the site. No. I want everybody making a ton of dough with like 1/2 of 1% conversions. That's what I want. So I'm looking for great math. Size of their prospect pools matter. Okay? Because otherwise they use them up, which means you can't get more work. Okay? So if they only got 4,000 people in the country they can sell to, and you're really good, you're going to burn that out. Now what? Okay? If they got 400,000 people they can sell to, you can live with them pretty much forever. Unexploited segmentation opportunities. Do you quickly deduce that they don't slice and dice their customers or their prospects, talk to them differently? Front-end media methods not used or used badly. They're only doing one thing. They're only doing 2 things. They could be doing 6 things. Great. Okay? If they're doing 6 things already, not so great. Back-end opportunities overlooked. Oh, great. They're doing a good job on the front. They're doing a terrible job on the back. Okay? The creative issues, yeah, the copy sucks. You could make it better. See, you'll think that way all the time. You'll look at a prospective client and you'll immediately be thinking about, is the copy good, bad, or indifferent? What would I do with the copy? How can I make the copy better? But that's only part of the game. That's fine if that exists. But by the way, it doesn't have to exist for you to have a great relationship with the client and make a lot of money. They can already have great copy, and you can have a great relationship with the client and make a lot of money. And just being able to give them better copy doesn't necessarily make them a good client. Okay? Extra pluses and minuses usually not considered. Good customers buying from bad marketing. Boy, is that a great client. When they got good customers who are buying from really lousy copy. Oh, now I know. I already know they got customers who will buy. That's like numero uno. So how many of you in here have done something for Nightingale? Okay. See, they're a perfect case. And I have no reflection on either one of you. But I mean, they got a lot of bad stuff. Okay. I mean, because they weren't paying it. So the copy is like derivative of derivative of derivative of derivative of derivative, right? I mean, so they're changing names and titles and using the personal development letter as the personal development letter as the personal development letter, all right? And I have a funny Nightingale story. You guys should see me. I have a really funny story. But the customers buy. So when I see Nightingale, it's like, oh, geez, look at this. So then I got to pay me to write copy for them, by the way. But I've done 4 deals with Nightingale where I've plugged a product in and created the copy for my product. Same situation. They got good customers who buy from bad copy. Oh boy, if I land good copy on good customers who buy from bad copy, we clean house, right? Ambitions of the client. A really ambitious client is great. I mean, I want the guy that wants to conquer the world. Okay? The attitudes of the client matter. Okay, let's take, now you need to run. Let's see, it's 10:31, so 10 minutes would be 10:41, 10:45. Okay, it's not even a full 15 minutes.